Modernity is often seen as progress, a time when reason, science, and civilization flourished. But for many, it also meant conquest, silencing, and inequality. In this video, we'll explore how Walter Mignolo and Homi Bhabha both challenged the story and how their ideas connect with Edward Said's Orientalism. Mignolo, in the darker side of Western modernity, says that modernity's bright side is progress and development, which always has a darker side, which is coloniality. And behind every civilized idea lies a history of domination and control. While Bhabha, in the occasion of culture, focuses on the in-between spaces where colonizer and colonized meet, he showed that identity is never pure. It is always mixed, changing, and filled with tension. And before both of them, Edward Said exposed how the Western created false images of the East, what he called Orientalism. And these images made non-Western people look weak, exotic, or backward. That's why it's justifying colonial rule. Said taught us that knowledge and power are always linked with one another. The way we talk about others shape how we treat them. Mignolo, Bhabha, and Said all agreed on one thing, which is Western knowledge was built through colonial power, and Said shows how the West represents others in a biased way. That's why Mignolo shows how these biases became part of the world's knowledge system, what he called the colonial matrix of power. And Bhabha shows how those systems affect real people, that in that way they're creating confusion, imitation, and resistance. For Bhabha, identity is not fixed at all. It lives in the in-between where people copy, adapt, and challenge colonial power. For Mignolo, freedom begins when we delink, or when we stop measuring ourselves by Western ideas and values on our own way of knowing. But both of them show that resisting colonialism isn't only about politics. It's about how we think, speak, and see ourselves. That's why Mignolo looks at the global structure, the system that controls knowledge and power, while Bhabha looked at the personal and cultural level, the way people negotiate meaning in everyday life. One studies the big picture and other looks at the details, but both exposed how modernity continues to carry the marks of colonial history. That's why when we read them together, a bigger picture appears. Said teaches us how the Western represents the other. Bhabha shows how culture respond and reshape that power, and Mignolo reveals how knowledge itself is part of that colonial system. But when we mix it together, they remind us that modernity isn't neutral at all. It's a story told from one side, and our task is to retell it from the many voices it silenced. That's why by connecting Mignolo, Bhabha, and Said, we see that decolonization isn't just about breaking political control. It's about freeing our imagination. It's about reclaiming the power to name, to know, and to dream on our own terms.